The bus smelled like old coffee and something sweet that had gone bad. I sat 3 rows from the back with my hood up and my hands in my pockets, feeling the $8 I had left folded twice in my right palm. $8. That was it. Friday was the deadline. The clinic called Tuesday morning and told me if I didn't have the payment by end of week, Mario was out. They didn't say it mean or anything. The woman on the phone was polite about it, professional, but she made it clear they weren't running a charity. $1,200 for the month. I had 8. I'd sent out 20 applications in the past 2 weeks. Fast food, warehouses, delivery services, overnight stocking at Publix. One of those places where they make you do a personality quiz that asks the same question 5 different ways to see if you're lying. I wasn't great at those. Probably came off desperate, which I guess I was. One place replied, IKEA, the big warehouse store off the Selman Expressway. Night recovery shift, $22 an hour. They needed someone to start immediately. I treated it like the only option because that's what it was. The bus rattled over a pothole and my phone buzzed in my jacket. I didn't check it. Probably the clinic again, or maybe Mario himself. He'd been texting me these long apologetic messages that trailed off halfway through, promising he'd pay me back, saying he was getting better. I believed the second part. The first part didn't matter right now. Carson Bradley drove the route. I'd seen him maybe 4 times in the past week, always the same flat expression, same reflective jacket over his transit uniform. He didn't make small talk. I liked that about him. When we pulled up near the Selman exit, he just nodded toward the window. IKEA stop. Thanks, I said. He grunted. Didn't look at me. I stepped off onto the service road and the doors hissed shut behind me. The building sat back from the expressway, this massive blue warehouse with yellow letters bigger than most billboards. During the day, the parking lot was probably packed. Families loading flat boxes into SUVs, kids running around the furniture displays. Now it was close to 11 at night and the lot stretched out mostly empty except for a single line of employee cars parked near the side entrance. Maybe 15 vehicles total. The overhead lights made everything look washed out, pale. It felt more like a facility than a store. Something about the way the building just sat there, huge and quiet. All those windows dark except for a few squares of light deep inside. I walked across the asphalt. My sneakers were scuffed enough that I didn't worry about them getting worse. The safety vest they'd told me to bring was folded in my backpack. I figured I'd put it on once I got inside. The employee entrance was around the left side, a plain metal door with a card reader and a buzzer. I hit the buzzer, waited maybe 30 seconds. The door opened and a security guard stood there with a clipboard. Stocky guy, short sandy blonde hair, pale blue eyes that didn't blink much. He had on a black polo with a security patch and a duty belt that looked more serious than I expected for a furniture store. Name, he said. Jacob Sandoval. He scanned the clipboard, running his finger down a short list, found my name about halfway down and made a mark next to it with a pen. ID. I pulled out my wallet and handed him my driver's license. He looked at it, looked at me, looked at it again. Took longer than it needed to. Finally, he handed it back and stepped aside. Go straight. Manager's waiting in the hall. Thanks. He didn't respond. Just closed the door behind me and went back to his post. The hallway was narrow, white walls with those motivational posters about teamwork and safety, bright fluorescent lights overhead that buzzed a little. It smelled like cleaning solution and something else. Maybe cardboard or that pressed wood smell from all the furniture. I walked maybe 20 feet and turned a corner. She was standing there with a yellow vest in one hand and a handheld radio clipped to her belt. Auburn hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Sharp green eyes, black slacks and a dark blouse under her own yellow vest. She looked up when I came around the corner and smiled, but it was the kind of smile people use at work. Professional. Fast. Jacob Sandoval. Yeah, Catherine Daniel, night operations manager. She held out the vest. You'll need this whenever you're on the floor. I took it and pulled it on over my hoodie. The fabric was stiff, like it had just come out of a package. Radio stays with me for now, she said. You'll get your own once you finish the first week. Okay. She looked at me for a second longer than felt normal. Her eyes moved across my face like she was trying to place something. It bugged me a little because I was doing the same thing. I didn't know her. Pretty sure I'd never seen her before, but something in the way she stood, the way she tilted her head just slightly, felt familiar. Not her face. Something else. You look like someone, she said. Yeah? Can't place it. She shook her head and turned, already walking. Doesn't matter. Let's get you oriented. I followed her down the hall. She walked fast, her shoes clicking on the linoleum. We passed a break room with vending machines and a microwave, then a door marked Authorized Personnel Only. She kept glancing to the left toward where the hallway opened up into what I assumed was the main store floor. I couldn't see much from where I was, just the top of a stopped escalator and a lot of darkness past the employee section lights. Shift starts at 11, ends at 6, she said without looking back. You'll be working recovery tonight. That means resetting the showroom floor, cleaning demo kitchens, folding linens, fixing any displays customers messed up during the day. Got it. It's straightforward work. We'll pair you with someone who knows the sections. She glanced toward the escalator again. Just a quick look, but I caught it. Her hand moved to the radio on her belt. Didn't press anything, just touched it. Questions? She asked. I had about 10. Why did the security guy act like he was checking me into a prison? Why did she keep looking at the escalator? Why did a night recovery shift pay $22 an hour when most places offered $15? When do I get paid? I asked instead. Fridays. Direct deposit if you filled out the form. I did. Then you're set. She stopped at a door marked Stock Access and turned to face me. This job isn't complicated, Jacob. Show up, do the work, don't wander off your assigned sections. That's it. The way she said it made it sound like people had wandered before. Okay, I said. She studied my face again, that same look, like she was solving something in her head. Then she checked her watch and her expression tightened. We're behind, she said. Come on. She pushed through the Stock Access door, and I followed, and the familiar feeling I couldn't place got a little bit stronger. Catherine pushed through another door, and I followed her into the break room. Same one we'd passed earlier. Vending machines along the left wall, microwave on a counter, round tables with those plastic chairs that stack, fluorescent lights humming a little too loud. She pulled out one of the chairs and sat down, gestured for me to sit across from her. I sat. Catherine reached into her vest pocket and pulled out a white card. Business card size, maybe a little bigger. Hard to tell from where I was sitting. She slid it across the table toward me. There was a small envelope attached to it with a paper clip. This stays in your pocket all night, she said, not looking at my face, looking at the card between us. I didn't touch it yet. The card lists your section assignments and procedures, Catherine said. The envelope contains materials you may need during your shift. May need, weird way to put it. I reached for the card, picked it up. The envelope was light. Something inside, but not much. The card itself was laminated. Thick plastic. Someone had gone to the trouble of making this permanent. Catherine's radio crackled. Static. Then nothing. She touched it, but didn't lift it from her belt. Read it, she said. So I read it. The front of the card had my name at the top. Jacob Sandoval. Printed in that default font every office printer uses. Below that it said Night Recovery Shift in smaller letters. Then 5 rules, numbered, each one single-spaced. 1. Keep showroom lights on at all times during your shift. 2. Do not enter Smoland after 1:10 a.m. 3. If the store chime rings without an announcement, face the nearest wall for 60 seconds. 4. If you encounter an employee without a name tag, hand them a blue receipt from the envelope and walk away immediately. 5. Leave at 4:58 a.m. through loading dock door 3. I read them twice. Didn't say anything. Catherine was watching me now. Confirmed them back to me. What? The rules. Tell me what they are. I looked down at the card again. This felt like a test, the kind where if you get one word wrong, the whole thing doesn't count. Keep the showroom lights on, I said. The whole shift. Catherine nodded once. Don't go into Smoland after 1:10 a.m. Another nod. If the store chime goes off without someone talking after it, I face the nearest wall for 60 seconds. Correct. If I see an employee without a name tag, I give them a blue receipt from this envelope and walk away right after. Immediately, Catherine said. Not right after. Immediately. Immediately, I repeated. She waited. And I leave at 4:58 a.m. through loading dock door 3. Catherine leaned back in her chair. Good. I turned the card over. The back was blank except for a single line of text at the bottom. Property of IKEA night operations. Do not remove from premises. I looked up. What's Smoland? The children's play area, Catherine said. 3rd floor. You won't need to go near it tonight. Then why? Because the rule applies every night. She stood up. Put the card in your pocket. I slid it into my front right pocket. The envelope came with it, still clipped on. I could feel the edge of something inside. Paper. Probably the blue receipts. Catherine checked her watch. It was one of those old Casio digitals. Black plastic band. She frowned at whatever time it showed. Your section tonight is living room display area C, she said. 2nd floor. Reset the sofas, fold the throw blankets, straighten the coffee tables. Someone will check your work at 3:30. I nodded. Didn't ask who. If you finish early, radio the floor supervisor. I thought I didn't get a radio until after the 1st week. You don't. Catherine walked toward the door. The supervisor will find you. That didn't make sense, but I didn't push it. She stopped with her hand on the door, turned back. Jacob. Yeah? Don't improvise. Don't problem solve. Just follow the card. I wanted to ask what she meant, what kind of problems she thought I'd run into folding blankets. But Catherine was already pushing through the door, and the way she moved made it clear the conversation was over. The door swung shut. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The vending machine hummed. Somewhere far off I heard a sound that might have been a pallet jack or might have been something else. I pulled the card back out of my pocket. Read the rules again. They were wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. Not incorrect, wrong. The kind of rules you don't get at a normal retail job. I'd worked overnight stocking at a Publix 2 years ago, and the rules there were simple. Clock in on time, stock the shelves, don't use your phone on the floor, clock out. That was it. This was different. Keep the lights on. Why would I turn them off? Why would that need to be a rule? Don't enter Smoland after 1:10. Specific time, not midnight, not 2 a.m., 1:10 exactly. Face the nearest wall if the chime rang without an announcement. 60 seconds. Who counted? What happened if I only did 59? An employee without a name tag. Every employee had a name tag. That was basic stuff. If someone didn't have one, they'd just go get a replacement from HR or wherever they kept them. And leaving at 4:58. Not 5, not 6 when the shift technically ended. 4:58 through a specific door. I put the card back in my pocket. $1,200. Friday. That's what I kept thinking. Mario's payment was due Friday, and this job paid $22 an hour. And if I worked 5 nights, that was over $800 before taxes. Not enough for the full $1,200, but enough to buy more time. Enough to call the clinic and tell them I had most of it, and the rest was coming. I could do 1 shift, Follow some weird rules, not ask questions. I stood up. The break room felt smaller than it had a minute ago. Or maybe I was just noticing how empty it was. No one else on break. No coats hanging on the hooks by the door. No half-empty coffee cups on the tables. I walked to the door Catherine had left through. Pushed it open. The hallway stretched ahead. White walls, motivational posters, fluorescent strips running along the ceiling. To my left, the hallway opened up where I could see the top of the stopped escalator and darkness past the employee section. That was where I needed to go. Second floor, living room display area C. I touched the card in my pocket, the plastic edge pressed against my fingers through the denim. No one around to ask for clarification, no supervisor standing nearby in case I had a question. Catherine was gone, the security guard was back at the entrance. I hadn't seen anyone else since I walked in. Just me and a laminated card with 5 rules that didn't make sense. I started walking toward the escalator. The building felt bigger the farther I went. That probably sounds stupid, but it's true. The ceilings were high and the hallway seemed longer than it should have been. And when I reached the point where the employee section ended and the showroom floor began, I stopped. The lights were on, bright overhead fluorescents. I could see rows of furniture displays stretching out into the distance. Sofas and chairs and lamps and rugs. Everything arranged in little fake rooms with tape on the floor marking the boundaries. Quiet, though. Completely quiet. I took the first step onto the showroom floor. Nothing happened. I don't know what I expected, but nothing happened. I kept walking, found the escalator. It wasn't running, but the steps were solid enough to climb. I went up slow, one hand on the rubber rail. Second floor opened up in front of me. More displays. Living rooms, dining rooms, bedroom setups, signs hanging from the ceiling with arrows pointing to different sections. I spotted the one that said, Living Room Display Area C. I headed toward it. The card stayed in my pocket. The envelope with the blue receipts pressed against my leg every time I took a step. I didn't understand what I was doing yet. Not really. But I understood I couldn't stop. The clinic deadline was Friday. Catherine had hired me on the spot. This was the job. These were the rules. The building wasn't asking me if I wanted to be here. It was just pushing me forward. I started in the kitchen displays. That's where Catherine told me to go. Second floor, living room display area C, except when I got up there I found kitchens first, rows of them. Little fake rooms with counters and cabinets and sinks that probably didn't connect to anything, tags hanging off everything, cups stacked on shelves, drawers half open with spatulas and wooden spoons staged inside like someone actually lived there. I figured I'd work my way over to the living room section after I got my bearings. The first thing I did was restack the cups. Someone had knocked over a tower of white ceramic mugs in the second kitchen setup, the one with dark blue cabinets and fake subway tile. They were scattered across the counter, a couple on the floor. I picked them up one by one and restacked them the way they'd probably been before. Neat. Even edges. Then I moved to the tags. Half of them were flipped backward or hanging crooked. I straightened maybe 20 of them, reading the Swedish names I couldn't pronounce. Roskog, Fintorp, Enhet. All capitals, all impossible. The stage drawers were next. People had opened them during the day and just left them that way. Some were pulled all the way out. I pushed them back in, adjusted the forks and knives inside so they looked purposeful again, orderly. It was easy work, repetitive. The kind of thing I could do without thinking too hard. The store felt weird, though. Not bad weird. Just weird. It was quiet, but not silent. The air handling system ran constantly, this low hum that filled the whole building. It sounded kind of like being inside a very clean, very large machine. Temperature was steady. Lights were bright. Everything smelled like particle board and new fabric and whatever they spray on rugs before they sell them. It felt like a neighborhood. That's the best way I can describe it. An indoor neighborhood where no one lived, but all the furniture was arranged like they did. Fake living rooms, fake kitchens, fake bedrooms behind partition walls. I kept checking my pocket. Not for the card, for a radio. Catherine had shown me hers, clipped to her belt, black plastic, short antenna. She said I wouldn't get one until after the first week. But I kept reaching for where it would have been anyway. Habit, maybe. Or just the feeling that I should have had a way to call someone if something went wrong. I pulled out my phone instead. 11:18. No signal. Not even one bar. I put it back. I tried to convince myself the place was just dead at night. That's all. Big retail stores were always like this after closing. Empty, quiet, kind of surreal when you were the only person walking around. I'd done overnight stocking at Publix 2 years ago, and it had felt the same way for the first few shifts. You got used to it. I moved to the next kitchen display. This one had white cabinets and a fake window with a printed picture of trees behind it. I straightened the dishcloths folded on the counter, adjusted a cutting board someone had left at an angle, and repositioned a bowl of fake lemons. My hands were busy. That helped. I kept working. 11:43, 11:51, midnight. The background music cut out. I didn't notice it until it was already gone. There'd been this faint, instrumental thing playing the whole time. I hadn't paid attention to it, but it had been there. Soft. Scandinavian sounding, probably. And then it just stopped. The silence after it was different. Heavier. Then the chime rang. One clean note. Loud. The kind of sound they play over the intercom before an announcement. I stopped moving. Stood there in the middle of the fifth kitchen display with a wooden spoon in my hand. I waited for the announcement. Nothing. Just the air handling system. The hum. I thought about the card in my pocket. Rule 3. If store chime rings without announcement, face nearest wall for 60 seconds. I'd read it 4 times already. I knew what it said, but I didn't move right away. I should have. I know that. But I just stood there for a couple seconds, trying to figure out if I'd missed the announcement. If maybe I hadn't been paying attention and someone had already said something. No, I would have heard it. The chime had rung. No words after. I realized I had waited too long. Not long, maybe 5 seconds, but longer than I should have. I turned toward the nearest wall. It was the back panel of the kitchen display. Fake drywall with a row of picture frames hung in a grid. Black frames, white mats, photos of plants and buildings and close-ups of coffee cups. IKEA art. The kind that came in plastic wrap. I faced it. I started counting. 1, 2, 3. My heart was going faster than it should have been. I didn't know why. It was just a rule. Probably some safety thing. Maybe they were moving equipment and didn't want people in the aisles. 4, 5, 6. I kept my eyes on the frames. There were 9 of them. 3 rows of 3. 7, 8. I heard something behind me. Not footsteps. A drag. Something heavy moving over carpet. Slow. Uneven. Like furniture being pulled. I didn't turn around. 9. 10. 11. The sound kept going. Closer. I could feel my shoulders tense up. I wanted to look. I didn't look. 12. 13. 14. It stopped. Right behind me. Close. Close enough that I could smell it. Wet wood. That was the first thing. Like lumber that had been sitting outside in the rain for too long. And under that, something else. Dampness. Old dampness. The kind that gets into basements and doesn't leave. 15. 16. I kept counting. I didn't move. I could hear my own breathing. I tried to keep it quiet. Steady. 17. 18. 19. Whatever it was still there. I didn't hear it move again. I didn't hear it breathe. But I knew it was there. 20. 21. My hands were shaking a little. I shoved them in my pockets. Left hand touched the card. The plastic edge. 22. 23. 24. I kept my eyes locked on the wall, on the picture frames. I picked one and stared at it. A photo of a fern in a white pot. 25. 26. The smell was still there. Stronger, maybe. 27. 28. 29. 30. Halfway, I thought about turning around. Just a glance, just to see what it was. I didn't. 31. 32. 33. The air behind me felt heavier. I don't know how else to say it, like something was taking up space that hadn't been full before. 34. 35. I kept counting. 36. 37. 38. 39. 40. 41. 42. My neck hurt from holding still. 43. 44. 45. The smell started to fade, I think, or maybe I was just getting used to it. 46. 47. 48. I heard the drag again, quiet, moving away. 49. 50. It kept going. Farther. 51. 52. 53. I couldn't hear it anymore. 54. 55. 56. 57. 58. 59. 60. I turned around. The music came back, same soft instrumental, like nothing had happened. I looked at the aisle behind me. No person, no cart, no furniture out of place, no wet spot on the carpet, no trail, no sign that anything had been dragged anywhere. Nothing that matched what I'd heard. Nothing that matched what I'd smelled. I stood there for a long time. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe a minute. Then I went back to work. I straightened a set of nesting bowls in the next display, folded a hand towel, adjusted the angle of a dish rack. My hands were still shaking a little. I ignored it. The store didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like it was waiting for me to make the next mistake. I found the first receipt at 12:40 in the morning. I was restacking plates in a dining display when I noticed something tucked under the base of a floor lamp. Not trash, too deliberate. The lamp stood in the corner of a fake living room, gray couch, white rug, that bookshelf everyone buys. And the receipt was folded once and wedged between the metal foot and the carpet. I pulled it out. Blue paper. Same shade as the one Catherine gave me in the envelope. Same size, same format with the IKEA logo printed at the top and a list of items below in that narrow receipt font. I unfolded it all the way. The total at the bottom read $0.00, not blank. Printed. Like someone rang up a cart of items and then the system zeroed everything out before finishing the transaction. I held it up to the light. The paper had that same slightly waxy texture. The items listed were normal. Puang chair, lac side table, Fergrick plate set. Real products, real item numbers. But the prices next to each one were all dashes. And at the bottom, where it should have shown tax and payment method, there was just that zero. I checked the envelope in my pocket. Still clipped to the card, still sealed. This receipt wasn't mine. Someone else had dropped it, or left it, or it had been sitting under that lamp for weeks, and no one bothered to pick it up during the day, except it wasn't dusty, wasn't wrinkled except for the one fold, looked fresh. I turned it over. The back was blank. I thought about Rule 4. If you encounter an employee without a name tag, hand them the blue receipt from the envelope and walk away immediately. Catherine made me repeat the word immediately twice. She didn't say what happened if I used the receipt wrong. Didn't say if I'd get a replacement. This one could work as a backup. Probably stupid. Probably didn't matter. But if I lost the envelope, or tore the real one by accident, having a second receipt might save me from whatever Catherine didn't want to explain. I folded the blue paper again and put it in my left pocket. separate from the card and envelope in my right. The lamp stayed crooked. I straightened it and kept moving. At 1:05, I heard something roll. I was passing the Smolin door on my way toward the bedroom displays. I'd been avoiding it since I came upstairs. Catherine said I wouldn't need to go near it tonight, said the rule applied every night. But the path from kitchens to living rooms curved past the play area entrance whether I liked it or not. The door was closed. Frosted glass panels set into a wooden frame, yellow and blue trim. The IKEA Smolin logo printed across the center with that little house and the cartoon kid. No window to see through, just the panel glowing faintly, glowing. The lights were on inside. I stopped walking. Rule 2 said do not enter Smolin after 1:10 a.m. Didn't say anything about the lights. Didn't say if they were supposed to be on or off. But I could see the glow through the frosted glass, pale and even, like someone left the overheads running. That's when the sneaker rolled out. It came from underneath the door. The gap at the bottom was maybe half an inch, enough for air and dust, and the sneaker came through that gap moving fast. A kid's sneaker. Small. Blue with white laces and a Velcro strap. It rolled 3 feet and spun to a stop on one of those floor arrows they paint to guide customers through the store. Perfect center, like someone aimed it. I stared at the shoe, then at the door, then back at the shoe. The lights behind the frosted panel stayed on. Steady. No flicker. I checked my phone. 1:06. 4 minutes until 1:10. I should have kept walking. Should have stepped over the sneaker and followed the arrows toward the bedroom section like Catherine told me. Living room display, area C, reset sofas, fold-throw blankets. Don't improvise. But I didn't move, because I heard the voice. Hello? A kid. Young, maybe 5 or 6. The kind of voice that carries even when it's trying to be quiet. I can't find my mom. The words came from behind the Smolin door. Muffled through the frosted glass, but clear enough. My hand moved toward the handle before I thought about it. Jacob? I froze. The kid knew my name. Jacob, can you help me? My hand hovered 2 inches from the metal handle. I could see my reflection in the frosted panel, warped, stretched, the yellow safety vest too bright under the lights. I pulled my phone out again. 1:07. 3 minutes. The voice came again, smaller this time. I'm scared. I thought about Mario, about the $1,200, about Catherine's face when she told me not to improvise, not to problem solve, just follow the card. Do not enter Smolin after 1:10 a.m. After. It was 1:07. Technically, I had 3 minutes. Technically, the rule didn't apply yet. I looked down at the sneaker. It hadn't moved, still centered on the arrow, still perfectly placed. My hand dropped. I took 1 step back from the door. Jacob. 1:08. 2 minutes. The kid's voice sounded patient now, not scared, not crying, just waiting. I took another step back. You can come in. It's okay. 1:09. I watched the seconds on my phone, watched them crawl from 58 to 59 to 1:10. The voice changed, not louder, not different words, but the tone shifted, dropped, like someone older doing an impression of a kid and not trying as hard anymore. You're smart, it said. Calm, even. That's good. I backed up another 3 steps. My shoulders hit a shelving unit, fake plants in pots. The plastic leaves rattled. The glow behind the frosted panel didn't change. The sneaker stayed where it was. I turned and walked fast toward the bedroom displays, toward anywhere that wasn't the Smolin door, and I didn't look back. At 1:12, I tried the radio. I didn't have. Stupid. Automatic. I reached for my belt where Catherine's radio had been clipped and found nothing but my hoodie and the safety vest. But I heard it anyway. Static. Faint. Coming from somewhere ahead of me in the furniture maze. I stopped walking. The static continued. Low, steady. The kind of white noise a radio makes when it's on but no one's transmitting. Then I heard the breathing. Slow, deliberate. Like someone holding the microphone right up to their mouth and just standing there. In and out. Patient. I checked my phone again. Still no signal. Still 112. The breathing didn't stop. I moved. Turned left down an aisle of nightstands and dressers, following the painted yellow arrows on the floor that were supposed to lead customers through the store in order. The breathing faded behind me, but the static stayed, distant now, like it was moving parallel to me one section over. I needed to get to the registers. Front of the store. Open space. Easier to see what was coming. The arrows curved right through a bedroom display. 4-poster bed, white duvet. Those floating shelves everyone puts above their headboard. I followed them into a kid's room section. Bunk beds, small desks, toy storage bins in primary colors. The arrows turned back toward children's furniture. I stopped. Looked at the path. It looped. The yellow line curved past a toddler bed display and bent back the way I'd come. That wasn't right. I ignored the arrows and turned left instead, cutting through a gap between 2 bedroom sets. The overhead signs hung from the ceiling every 30 feet, big yellow panels with black text and section names. I found one that read, "Checkout," as exit, with an arrow pointing forward. I followed that instead. 3 steps later, the floor arrows appeared again, cutting across my path. I stepped over them and kept going straight. The arrows curved in from the right. I walked faster, past a living room display, a dining table set up, a wall of framed prints. The arrows kept appearing. They bent toward me from the left now, guiding me back toward the kids' section, toward the small furniture and the bright plastic bins and the bunk beds I'd already passed. I stopped in the middle of an aisle. The overhead sign still said, "Checkout, exit, forward, straight ahead." But when I looked at the floor, the arrows curved right, back toward children's furniture. I stood there for maybe 20 seconds. The static was gone. The breathing was gone. Just the air system hum and the fluorescent lights and the feeling that the store was bigger than it should be. I looked up at the sign again. Checked the direction. Ignored the arrows completely. Then I walked straight toward the registers, keeping my eyes on the overhead signs, stepping over every painted line that tried to turn me around. It took 4 minutes. The front lanes opened up ahead. Rows of registers, conveyor belts, impulse buy shelves, stocked with candy and batteries and measuring tapes. Open space. Bright. Empty. I stopped at the first register and leaned against the counter. My hands were shaking again. I pulled the card out of my pocket and read, "Rule 2 one more time. Do not enter Smoland after 1:10 a.m. I'd followed it. Barely. But I'd followed it. I put the card back and checked the time. 1:17. 5 hours and 41 minutes until I could leave through loading dock door 3. I stayed at the registers for 3 full minutes, catching my breath, listening to the empty store, trying to figure out what the hell I'd just agreed to work in. Then I pushed off the counter and headed back toward living room display area C. I still had sofas to reset. The front lanes looked different than they should have. I stood there catching my breath, leaning against the first register, and noticed the chain barriers were gone. The ones that should have been stretched across every checkout lane because the store was closed, just gone. And the carts, there was a whole row of them lined up in the corral, perfectly straight. Not the usual mess of nested carts shoved together. These were aligned like someone took a ruler to them. I checked my phone. 1:23 a.m. Behind the carts, someone stood there. An employee. Yellow IKEA shirt. Dark pants. The uniform I'd seen in the training videos they emailed me. The person wasn't moving, just standing with their hands at their sides, about 15 feet away on the other side of the cart corral. I straightened up. Probably just another night worker, someone Catherine forgot to mention. I almost said, "Hey." Then I looked at the name tag area. It was blank. Not missing, The fabric rectangle was still there on the chest, the right size and shape, but no name printed on it. No plastic sleeve, just blank yellow cloth. Rule 4 hit me before I could think about it. If you encounter an employee without a name tag, hand them the blue receipt from the envelope and walk away immediately. The employee lifted one arm, slow, gestured with their hand toward the upper floors, then pointed. I followed the direction, Smoland. Third floor, the gesture meant something up there. A spill, maybe. That's what the motion looked like. The kind of pointing you do to tell maintenance there's a mess somewhere. Then the employee pointed at me. No, not at me. Lower, at my pocket, the envelope. I could see the bulge where I'd clipped it to the card in my right front pocket. The envelope Catherine gave me with the blue receipts inside. The ones I wasn't supposed to need unless I ran into this exact situation. My left pocket had the other receipt, the one I'd found under the lamp at 12:40. I'd kept it as backup, just in case. The employee kept pointing, patient, waiting. I pulled the card out of my right pocket, the envelope still clipped to it with the paper clip. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Weird. They'd been shaking after the thing at midnight, after the dragging sound and the wet wood smell, but now they were steady. I could give them the envelope receipt. That's what Rule 4 said. Hand them the blue receipt and walk away immediately. But I had 2 receipts now. Catherine never said I couldn't use the one I found. She gave me the envelope, sure, but the rule just said blue receipt. Didn't specify which one. And if I gave away the envelope receipt now and ran into another employee without a name tag later, I'd have nothing left. The employee stood there, still pointing. I made the call. Seemed safest. I reached into my left pocket and pulled out the loose receipt. The one from under the lamp. Unfolded it once so it looked proper, like I'd pulled it from the envelope. Held it up so the employee could see the blue paper. Then I walked forward, didn't rush. Just crossed the space between the register and the cart corral, my sneakers quiet on the concrete floor. The overhead lights were bright. The employee didn't move. I stopped about 3 feet away and held out the receipt. The employee reached for it. Their hand moved smooth, no hesitation. Fingers closed around the blue paper. I let go. For a second, nothing happened. Then the store lights flickered, just once. Like a power blink, the kind that makes you think the electricity dipped for half a second before the backup kicked in. Fluorescence dimmed, came back, steady again. The tension I'd been carrying since Smoland, the tightness in my chest, the feeling that something was watching, dropped, just gone. I took a full breath for the first time in 20 minutes. I'd paid it. Whatever token the rules wanted, I'd handed it over. The backup receipt worked. The thing accepted it. I stepped back, ready to walk away immediately like the rules said. The employee turned, slow pivot toward the escalators, toward the upper floors, toward Smoland. I was already turning to leave when it stopped, and looked back at me. That's when I saw the hands. Both hands came up, palms facing me. Fingers spread. Black staples were driven through the palms. Not one or two, rows of them. Neat lines of industrial staples, the kind you'd use on cardboard or upholstery, punched straight through the flesh in perfect intervals. Maybe 8 or 9 per hand. The metal gleamed under the fluorescent lights. No blood, no wounds around the staples. Just the black metal and skin. The employee pointed. One stapled hand extended, finger aimed directly at my right pocket. At the envelope, the real one, the one Catherine gave me, still clipped to the card. My stomach dropped. I'd given it the wrong receipt. The chime rang. Not from the intercom, from inside the cart corral. The sound came from within the nested row of carts, metal tapping against metal, like someone was in there hitting a pipe against the frame. Rule 3 said face the wall when the chime rang without an announcement, but I was at the registers. The nearest wall was 20 feet back. Rule 4 said walk away immediately after handing over the receipt. I picked Rule 4. I turned and moved. Fast walk, not running yet. My brain was doing that thing where it gets real calm and practical when everything goes wrong. The stockroom entrance was to the right, past the customer service desk. I'd seen the door on my way to the registers earlier. The tapping kept going behind me. Rhythmic, tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. I reached the door marked Authorized Personnel Only and shoved through without slowing down. The door swung shut behind me and the tapping cut off. Totally silent. The stockroom was huge. Rows of industrial shelving 30 feet high, loaded with flat-packed boxes in brown cardboard and white plastic wrap. Forklifts parked in the aisles. Pallet jacks, the smell of wood pulp and shrink wrap. I kept moving, didn't stop to look back. Followed the main aisle about 40 feet in, then took a left between two shelving units. The boxes here were labeled hem knees and packs, wardrobes. The big ones that came in 4 or 5 separate flat packs. I slipped into the gap between a stack of boxes and the shelving frame. Tight space, maybe 2 feet wide, enough to crouch down and stay out of sight if someone walked past. I crouched, pulled my knees up, controlled my breathing. The feeling of being watched was still there, not as strong as before, but present. That pressure on the back of my neck, the sense that something was paying attention. I waited, counted seconds in my head, got to 60, kept going, 120, 180. The air handling system hummed. Somewhere far off, a compressor kicked on. Normal sounds, building sounds. The feeling started fading around 300 seconds. 5 minutes. The pressure lifted degree by degree until it was just me in a stockroom hiding behind flat-packed furniture at 1:30 in the morning. I checked my phone. 1:32 a.m. No missed calls, no signal still. I stayed put another minute, then another. The feeling was gone. Whatever had been watching, whatever that employee was, it wasn't focused on me anymore. I leaned my head back against the cardboard. The box behind me said, Hemness wardrobe, black-brown, $228. Assembly required. Yeah, that sounded about right. I stayed in that stockroom until 2:22, checked my phone probably every 3 minutes. No signal still. Just the time updating and my battery dropping to 71%. The feeling of being watched was gone completely by then. Whatever had followed me from the registers had moved on or stopped caring. That worried me more than it should have. I needed to find Catherine, ask her what the hell was actually happening. Maybe get a straight answer about the receipts or why an employee had staples driven through both palms or what Mario had to do with any of this. I walked back through the stockroom the way I'd come in, past the PAX boxes and the forklifts parked crooked in their lanes. The break room was 2 hallways over from authorized personnel. I remembered passing it twice during orientation. The door was propped open when I got there. That was the first weird thing. It had been closed every other time. I pushed through and the room was empty. No Catherine, no one at the tables. The vending machines were still humming and the microwave clock read 2:23 in green digits. Catherine's vest was hanging on a hook by the door. Just the vest. Yellow with the IKEA logo on the back. Her radio was gone, but the vest was there like she'd taken it off mid-shift and walked away. I touched the fabric. Still warm. Underneath the vest, sitting on the narrow shelf below the hooks, was a card. Not mine. A second one. I picked it up. Same size and shape as the one in my pocket. Same laminated plastic. But this one was older. The edges were worn, and one corner had a coffee stain that bled under the lamination in a brown half circle. The front had a name printed at the top in the same default font. Mario Casey. My chest went tight. Below his name it said, Night Recovery Shift, in smaller letters. Then the same 5 rules I'd memorized. Rule 1. Keep showroom lights on at all times during shift. Rule 2. Do not enter Smoland after 1:10 a.m. Rule 3. If store chime rings without announcement, face nearest wall for 60 seconds. Rule 4. If you encounter employee without name tag, hand them blue receipt from the envelope and walk away immediately. Rule 5. Leave at 4:58 a.m. through loading dock door 3. But below Rule 5, someone had written in black permanent marker, "The blue receipt is not a pass, it's a trade." I read it twice. The handwriting was blocky and uneven. Not Mario's. Someone else had written that after the card was printed. I turned the card over. The back wasn't blank. There were notes. Pen and marker, different colors. Blue ink, black ink, red marker. Like multiple people had added to it over time. Catherine's handwriting was at the top. I recognized it from the schedule she'd shown me during orientation, neat and slanted to the right. Next to Mario's name, she'd written, "Quit without paying, debt transferred." Below that, in different handwriting, messier, "Tried to leave through main entrance, didn't make it to the door." And at the bottom, in red marker, big letters, "Receipt marks you. Handing it over only satisfies the first demand." I stood there holding both cards, mine in my right hand, Mario's in my left. The loose receipt I'd found under the lamp, the one I gave to the employee at the registers. That hadn't been a backup. It had been bait, or a marker. I'd picked it up thinking I was being smart, and all I'd done was show them I had the real one. The envelope Catherine gave me was still clipped to my card in my right pocket, unopened. The blue receipts inside were what they actually wanted, and Mario had worked here. Mario had stood in this same break room, worn a vest, carried a card. He'd quit without paying something, and now I was here in his place wearing his debt. I checked the time. 2:29. 4:58 was the exit time. Loading dock door 3. That gave me 2 hours and 29 minutes to figure out what paying meant or how to get out without handing over the envelope. I folded Mario's card and put it in my left pocket where the loose receipt had been. Then I walked back out to the showroom floor. The bedroom section started right past the escalators on the second floor. Rows of stage setups, queen beds with duvets, nightstands, dressers with mirrors attached to the backs. I passed the first mirror at 2:33. I saw myself. Tired. Hood still up. Yellow vest over my hoodie. And behind me, maybe 10 feet back, the employee from the registers. I spun around. No one there. Just an empty aisle. A bed with gray sheets. A floating shelf unit. I turned back to the mirror. The employee was still there, standing in the same spot, hands at their sides. The staples in their palms visible even in the reflection, neat black rows driven through the skin. I moved forward, kept walking. The next mirror was in a different setup. White dresser, round mirror in a wooden frame. I looked. The employee was closer, maybe 6 feet behind me now. I didn't turn around that time. I knew they wouldn't be there in real space. Third mirror, tall and leaning against a wardrobe display, 4 feet behind me. Close enough I could see the blank name tag clearly. Close enough to see their expression, neutral, patient, waiting. Fourth mirror, 2 feet. If I stopped walking, they'd be right against my back. I stopped checking mirrors after that. At 4:40, the chime started. Not one ring, 2, ding-dong, ding-dong. Pause, ding-dong, ding-dong. I was in the office furniture section, desks and filing cabinets and those ergonomic chairs that spin. The chime kept ringing, pairs, every 15 seconds. I pulled out my card and reread Rule 3. Face the wall for 60 seconds when the chime rings without announcement. But this wasn't stopping. The chime rang again, closer. Like the sound was coming from a different speaker now, one right above me. I started walking, didn't know where, just forward. The overhead lights in the aisle behind me went dark, not a flicker, just off, a clean line of shadows spreading from the back of the section toward where I stood. I walked faster. The lights kept cutting out, one row at a time, chasing me. The chime was pushing me somewhere, guiding me the way the floor arrows had tried earlier. I looked at the overhead signs. They all pointed the same direction now, toward the escalators, toward the third floor, toward Smoland. Rule 1 existed to keep the lights on because whatever hunted needed you to see it coming, needed you to know it was there. The darkness wasn't cover, it was pressure. It was a hand on your back shoving you forward into the sections that broke the other rules. I turned left, tried to cut through a gap between bookcases. The lights ahead went dark. I turned right. Dark. The chime rang again, louder, angrier, ding-dong, ding-dong. I ran. At 4:55 I was on the third floor. I hadn't meant to go up. The escalators had been the only path left with lights still on. The Smoland door was 20 feet ahead of me, closed. Frosted glass panel, yellow and blue trim. The chime stopped. Total silence. Just the air system hum. The door opened, slow, swinging inward on its hinge. The employee stepped out. Same yellow shirt, same blank name tag, same staples through both palms. But now they were wearing something else. A paper wristband, the kind they give kids when they check into Smoland, blue with a printed number. In their right hand they held my envelope. Not one like it. Mine. I checked my pocket. The card was still there, but the paper clip was empty. The envelope was gone. The employee held it up, gestured with their other hand, pointed at me, pointed at the envelope, pointed at their open palm. The trade was due. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have time to think. I saw a box cutter on a shelf next to a stack of canvas bins. The orange handle kind with the slider blade. I grabbed it, flicked the blade out. The employee didn't move. I ran forward. Not at them. Past them. Toward the stockroom entrance I'd used earlier. They turned to follow but didn't chase, just watched. I hit the door to authorize personnel and kept running. Through the stockroom. Past the shelving units. Toward the back where receiving was marked on a yellow sign. The compactor was in the corner. Industrial. Big metal chute. Red button on the wall next to it labeled Start. I sliced the envelope open with the box cutter. The blue receipts fell into my hand. 2 of them, identical. Waxy texture. I shoved them into the compactor chute. Hit start. The machine groaned. Metal grinding metal. The receipts disappeared into the mechanism. The chime screamed. Not a ding-dong. A scream. High-pitched, metallic, like feedback through a blown speaker. It cut off mid-tone. Silence. I didn't wait to see what happened next. 4:58. I ran through the stockroom to the back wall. Found loading dock door 3. Big metal roll-up door with a regular exit door built into the side. I shoved it open. Dawn. Pale gray light. The parking lot spread out in front of me. The overhead lights in the lot clicked off one by one in a neat line from left to right as I stepped outside. Catherine was waiting. She stood next to a concrete pillar 10 feet from the door. Yellow vest, back on. Radio clipped to her belt. She held a paper in her hand. My timesheet, already printed. You made it, she said. I didn't answer, just stood there trying to catch my breath. The compactor will be sealed by 8, Catherine said. Incident logged as equipment failure. Maintenance won't find anything. What the hell was that? A debt, Catherine said. Mario worked nights here. 6 months ago. He tried to leave early, not through the dock, through the main entrance. Didn't make it to the door. What happened to him? He got out eventually, Catherine said. But he didn't finish his shift. Didn't pay what he owed. The receipt system collects what's due. You showed up using his name as a reference. That transferred it. That's not how jobs work. Catherine handed me the timesheet. This one does. I looked at the paper. Hours logged. Pay calculated. $22 times 7 hours. $154 before taxes. I needed it. For the clinic. For Mario. I took it. Next shift is tomorrow, Catherine said. Same time. I'm not coming back. You work the shift. You'll get paid, but the system doesn't close until you finish a full week. I destroyed the receipts. You destroyed 2 pieces of paper, Catherine said. The debt doesn't live in the envelope. It lives in the card. You still have that. I pulled the card from my pocket, looked at it. My name, the 5 rules. Property of IKEA night operations. You can quit, Catherine said, but you'll owe the difference, same as Mario, and it'll follow you the same way. This is insane. This is the job, Catherine said. She turned toward the building. Door locks in 30 seconds. If you're staying out, stay out. If you're coming in, come now. I didn't move. Catherine walked back to the employee entrance, pulled the door open, looked back once. I stayed where I was. She went inside. The door clicked shut. I stood in the parking lot as the sky lightened from gray to pale blue. Watched the building. Watched the lights inside stay on. Then I walked to the service road and waited for the bus. Carson picked me up at 5:43. Same route, same driver. I sat 3 rows from the back, didn't check my phone, just watched the city wake up through the window. The rules were built to extract something, not just labor, something else. And the people who ended up working nights were the ones who couldn't afford to owe, the ones who needed $1,200 by Friday, the ones who'd take $22 an hour and not ask questions until it was too late. Mario had tried to run. I'd finished the shift. I didn't know which one of us made the right choice. The clinic payment was due in 4 days. I had $154 coming. Not enough. Not even close. But I had the card in my pocket. And Catherine said the system didn't close until I finished the week. I got off at my stop and walked home. The store would be waiting tomorrow night. I wasn't sure yet if I'd go back.